Good afternoon and welcome to the Washoe County District Board of Health. It is 1 p.m. on Thursday, June 28th of 2018. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair. Chair Jung,
Present.
Dr. Novak is absent. Oscar Delgado is absent. Dr. George Hess.
Here.
Christopher Dare is absent. Michael Brown.
Here.
Tommy Young.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And Councilman Delgado just walked in. Thank you. Mr. Delgado, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Councilman. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment at this time?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Item number 4 is approval of today's agenda. That is an action item. Any concerns or anything you want to poll? I know that I've been informed by the district health officer that we are going to poll item G as in girl. And another change on this agenda will be item 6BI. It's changed by an increase of $1 to $64,582. So with those two additions, can I get an approval?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Brown, a second by Hess. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Mr. District Health Officer, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next, we'll move to recognitions, and we have a couple of retirements that we want to acknowledge. And first, we have Diane Friedman, who is retiring after 25 plus years as a public health nurse, and she is not here, Steve. Mr. Cutts is gesturing there. So she, 25 years in our, and most recently our TB clinic, and we do have a small token of our appreciation for Ms. Friedman. Washoe County Health District recognizes Diane Friedman for 25 plus years of dedicated service from January 25th of 1993 to her retirement will be July 6th of 2018. So we do have a nice clock for Diane, which I'm sure we'll get to her. And then we do have here Christina Burton. Tina Burton, who is retiring on the 13th. And she's an office support specialist with, thank you for standing, Tina, 29 plus years in air quality management. So I had the pleasure of working directly with Tina when I was in air quality. I don't know if Ms. Albee wants to make any remarks to.
Ms. Albee, and let me announce to the people that we are honoring today, please stick around because we'll do photographs afterwards, okay?
Hi, for the record, Charlene Albee, Director of Air Quality Management. I can tell you that Tina and I actually started in air quality just about a month apart. So we have gone through the learning curve from the very beginning. When I started, I was new to the county, and she had actually transferred over from HR, so she has been my rock throughout this entire adventure. So we are very happy that we have had the time together, and if I keep going, I can make both of us cry. So just very appreciative of the knowledge, skills, the abilities, and we are really going to miss having Tina as part of our team.
All right, congratulations. And we also have a clock for Tina that we'll provide for her when we take our picture in a few minutes. So, congratulations. And then I'd like to recognize Michael Lupin for 20 years of service. If you could please stand, Mike. He's a environmental health specialist and great contributor over in that program. So thank you for your service. I have a certificate for you, which we'll present when we take pictures. We have a couple of people we want to recognize for promotions, and One is Maria Rodriguez. She is not able to be here today, I understand, but she was promoted from a community health aide to a human services support specialist in our Sport Specialist 2 in our WIC program. Oh, Diane is here. Yes. So we just talked about you, Ms. Friedman, but maybe if you could stand up to be recognized for your retirement with 25 plus years of service. And stick around. I have a clock for you, and we'll take a picture. And then also for promotions, wanted to recognize Susan Hopkins, office assistant. She was an office assistant too, has been promoted to an office support specialist in environmental health services. And I'm trying to scan to see if Susan is here with us today, but I think she's busy staffing the counter at environmental health. We have a few new hires that we'd like to introduce to the board, and we've got two that are in administrative health services. So I'm going to do those introduce those two first. We have Stephen Thalaker, who's a principal account clerk for AHS, and we've got Nanette Kano, an account clerk 1, and I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Heenan to introduce them.
Good afternoon. I'm Anna Heenan, your Administrative Health Services Officer. I am very happy to introduce Stephen, or actually follow after Kevin introducing Stephen and Nanette. Stephen spent about 19 and a half years over at the County Treasurer's Office, so he's moved over to the Health District, and he's going to be able to provide all his knowledge and skills in our fiscal team. Nanette actually did, it was a little over 8 years or under, it's a little over 8 years at Social Services, and she too is going to be able to bring all her knowledge and skills to our fiscal team. I also want to capitalize on this opportunity down here to tell you how excited I am of the new fiscal team that we have built. We've had a lot of change over the last couple months, and we've added a new fiscal compliance officer, with one of them leaving, Jennifer Pierce. She was actually announced last month, but we missed that, so I wanted to let you guys know Jennifer's there. Just wave. It's a great team, and we're all very happy and very excited to bring the financial services to you and to be able to do the best job we can for the health district. So join me in welcoming our two new members of the health fiscal staff.
Next, I'd like to have, looks like Charlene. Ms. Albee is going to introduce Brittany Osborne, a new air quality specialist trainee.
Again, Charlene Albee, Director of Air Quality. I am really pleased to present Brittany Osborne. She has come to us, she's new to the county, as an air quality specialist trainee in our enforcement section. Brittany is local, born and raised here. UNR graduate. She actually has a degree in forest management and is coming to us from the Nevada Division of Forestry, where she was running inmate crews with fire crews. So I think that her demeanor and her manner is going to be perfect for one of our field inspectors, that she's really calm under pressure and nothing seems to really get her too rattled, and she's fit right into our group. As Anna said, we've now got a full staff of inspectors, and to see the camaraderie building and the engagement and the excitement, and you know, the new blood does a lot of good for our team. So we're very, very pleased to have Brittany with us.
Welcome. All right. Next, I'd like to recognize Lenny Shore. And Lenny, if you could please stand up. And Lenny received earlier this year a very prestigious award. She's the 2017 Silver Syringe Award winner for Outstanding Immunization Nurse. And this is a recognition that comes from Immunize Nevada. And I was fortunate enough to be there at the dinner and see Ms. Shore being recognized. But congratulations for the outstanding work that you do and your recognition that you received for your work at the Health District. And then we have next our Shining Star Award recipients. And as you'll recall, Shining Star is a recognition program that the county has for employees that are providing excellent customer service or doing an excellent job. And many of these employees are recognized by the public that we serve for the excellent service that they receive from them. So I wanted to introduce them to you. I'm going to introduce the group that has 3 or more Shining Star recognitions first, and that's Janet Smith with Air Quality Management. So, thank you, Janet. Yelena Varganova with our epidemiology program. So thank you, Yelena. Diana Karlichek is, I believe, at the National Environmental Health Association conference. So, but she has received those recognitions as well. Nick Flory, I'm not sure if Mr. Flory is here, with our special events program, so he's probably busy with that. And Amy Santos with Environmental Health Services. And I think Amy is also busy providing customer service right now at the counter there. And then also from Environmental Health with 6 Shining Star Awards is Susan Hopkins. And I think she may also, yes, be. But fantastic to see these recognitions coming in for our staff doing a great job in serving the public through the health district. So congratulations to everybody. And then we have our 2018 Extra Mile Awards. And this I have on my agenda that Kelly Goatley Seals is, there she is. I was looking for her, but she was like hiding right in the front row. Okay. So I will let Kelly proceed with this, and I believe I come down there as well.
Thank you very much. Kelly Goatley Seals for the record. I am a health educator coordinator with the Washoe County Health District's Chronic Disease Prevention Program, and I have with me today Jordan Thomas. He is one of our public service interns with our Chronic Disease Prevention Program, and he helped our team put together our Emma Awards this year, contacting the awardees, and so I wanted him to be here and help present those as our team, and I thank the Board of Health as well for helping us to award these community members. The Extra Mile Awards honors businesses that have gone above and beyond the requirements of the Nevada Clean Indoor Air Act, making the conscious decision to go smoke-free when the law does not require them to. These businesses were identified by our community for exemplifying a growing movement to increase smoke-free venues and locations. 85% of our community here in Washoe County does not smoke, and these awardees provide smoke-free environments to thousands of residents, visitors, and employees each year. So today, it is our honor to present the following businesses with the Extra Mile Award. Our first awardee, as far as I know, we do not have a representative here, but it is Faces NV. It is a nightclub in the downtown area, which opened in 2017. As a smoke-free location. They wanted to create a smoke-free environment with their business so that people could enjoy their facility without exposure to secondhand smoke and without leaving smelling like secondhand smoke and experiencing the irritants. And am I right that? Yep. So unfortunately, nobody from Faces NV, but we do have an award that we will present to them. And our second awardee is here today. It's the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation. And the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation programs and events operate under the Healthy Parks, Healthy People Truckee Meadows initiative. And this is predicated on the idea that the health of the environment is integrally related to the health of our citizens. And they have designated all of their programs and events smoke-free and vape-free. It was a decision by the organization which aligned with the Healthy Parks, Healthy People ideals. And because the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation programs and events are family-friendly and park-based, and we are thrilled that they have also designated all of those as smoke-free. And so we have Jeanette Orton, the development officer, on behalf of the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, that is going to accept the award for them. So I guess we'll come back for a picture in a few minutes.
Stay there. So, Mr. Uliberry, can you be the conductor for the photographs? You want to look at my agenda so you can do it? down there, guys.
Okay. On three, please. One, two, three. And one more. One, two, three.
Hold it, guys. We got another one. Okay, did you get it? Nate? Yep. Congratulations. Thanks for all you do.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, wait, you're not going anywhere. Who's next? Oh, he's gonna do it. You're gonna be the.
Diane.
I jumped it back. Can't fly without this. I know, I should. How was the wall there, honey? Did you get a decent amount? We wanted to go down there, but it's. And my husband's a snob. He's like, how's the house doing? I said, nothing. He's like, "Thank you." Yeah, he just. I tell him everyone can be rich like him.
Step closer, please, everyone. On three. One, two, three. And one more time. One, two, three. Thank you.
Congrats. Thank you for all you do for our community.
Oh, Diane, I've got
Oh, you're already on retirement? No. Next Friday. You enjoy it. This one. She want to re-gift it. I'm Jewish, I'm sorry. We re-gift it. Thank you. When does yours start? I know how painful this is. I know. When do you start retirement?
July 13th. It's a Friday.
Yeah.
This is really cool. Thank you for all your service. This is.
Okay. On three. One, two, three. And one more. One, two, three. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Congrats for being a public servant.
They stand like that.
All right, and then, Mike?
It's got like a snack this morning. Hot and red. He's got some for you. Yeah. Wild labor laws in that.
On three, please. One, two, three. And one more. One, two, three.
Congratulations. Thanks for your public service.
All right, and then, let's have our, new hire then, Stephen?
Together or separate?
Come on, give these, and then we'll do the next.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome to the health department. I know you've been in the county forever.
Okay, on three. One, two, three. And one more. One, two, three. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to God's lifestyle. And then that. Thanks, Steve. And then, we've got Brittany after that.
Hi. Welcome to the health district.
Okay. Know the routine. One,
They give you shots or anything after the meeting?
Clearly, I don't know what that is.
One, two, three. One, two, three. Great. Good job. One, two, three. And one more. One, two, three.
We're done. We have to evacuate everybody. There should be somebody in a vest outside that just shows where to go.
Attention, attention. An emergency has been reported in this building. Please
Thank you very much. We are back in session for the District Board of Health on Thursday, June 28th, 2018. I just want to let everybody know that it was a false alarm. Somebody pulled an alarm in the building, and we have to take all of these alarms as what they are, an emergent issue, and that's why we were all evacuated. And I just want to say something before we go on to the next, because we were just honoring employees for all their achievements and their dedication. And, public servants, even outside of law enforcement, take a lot of risks in their life with the citizens that they deal with. And generally, we're dealing with people in crisis. So I want to thank you for your public service. I think there's no better humanitarian work on the planet. So public servants are my personal heroes. So thank you so much. All right, that takes us to item 6, which is consent. Please make a note on the record that 6B should reflect in the total amount of $64,582, not 81. And with that change, as well as the item G being pulled, do I have a motion to accept?
I move to accept the consent item.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion by Young, sorry, and a second by Hess. Any further discussion? Is there public comment, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Next, we have the National Weather Service presentation on the effects of climate change in regards to local vector issues. And I have here, it's Mr. Mark Duschendorf. Yeah?
John Middlestat.
And John Middlestat. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark and I are meteorologists with the National Weather Service office here in Reno. This is a photograph of the view from our office. We're really lucky to have this view. We're up across the street from TMCC.
Wow.
There's 124 offices like ours across the country. In our opinion, we've got the best view of all. To back up and kind of look at the recent climate that got us to where we are today, you recall last winter, this chart showing the months of October through February, last fall and winter. So it was a pound fake winter. You can see there, this is precipitation for California and Nevada, and whether it's above normal or below normal, well, it's all below normal here. That's the yellows and red colors. In fact, for the southern half of Nevada there, those red colors, the southeast portion there, that was the record driest October through February on record. So at this point, things were looking poor in terms of water supply, although not as bad as they would have been because the winter before was so wet. However, things changed in March. This same chart showing for March, April, May, these greens are all above normal. In fact, you see the northern central part of Washoe County there is the record wettest. That was the record wettest period we ever had. So it was a miracle March. It sort of saved our snowpack for the water season. And just to put that into context of all the years we have records for the Truckee Basin, the Truckee River system, this is from lowest to highest. So you see on the left side there, the year 2015, that was that dismal drought year that we had. You see over on the right side, 2017, that busy winter we had the winter before last, that came in third place there in terms of the wettest winters. And 2018 there, you see it fell kind of in the middle of the pack, a little below average, but again, we were saved by that miracle March. So that led us into some very wet conditions through April. Soil moisture was high in our area. However, now we've gotten to our dry summer period, and what this chart is showing us here for much of our area and much of northern Nevada, soil moistures are average. So I bring this up in the context of mosquitoes. I think, out walking my dog in the spring, there were a lot of muddy spots that weren't normally muddy. So certainly there was some extra mosquito breeding grounds this spring. However, now we've returned to about normal. From the previous winter that was so wet, we had so much runoff that those terminal lakes in our area are also no longer dry. And so this is just an example. This is the Washoe Lake. The peak there towards the left side of the graph, that was the spring before last, and the runoff peaked there in about June, and then dropped off. But then this spring, you'll see it also came back up again, almost to where it was a year ago. And so it hasn't dropped off much from all that snow runoff that we had from the winter before last. So again, this is an indication, both Washoe Lake and Lemon Lake and other lakes in Washoe County, Swan Lake, sorry, in Lemon Valley. We still have those bodies of water out there that we didn't used to have, and there's more opportunities for mosquitoes to breed. Finally, I just wanted to bring up, in terms of climate change, this idea of snow drought. This is probably hard to see from the back of the room, I apologize, but this was this past April, and again, looking at the snow that was available to us in the mountains to provide us water through our water supply through the Truckee River. So you see there around the lake, there's a sort of a 90 to 105% averages in terms of how much water is available this past April 15th. I'm sorry, let me start over. In terms of how much precipitation fell. In terms of how much precipitation fell up till April 15th over this past winter, it's around 100%. So that miracle March brought us back up to about average. But in terms of the snowpack that was available for our water supply, this is the same date, but the water that's available is only about 60% of normal. You see around Lake Tahoe there, 50 to 65%. So in other words, it was a warm winter compared to average. The precipitation was average, but because it was warmer than average, our snowpack wasn't as healthy as it would have been. And this is something that, as weather forecasters, we're seeing in terms of climate change. Slightly higher snow levels, so we're not storing as much water in the snowpack up in the mountains. So again, to repeat that, what do we expect for a future climate? Warmer, so a warmer, longer warm season, higher snow levels. Precipitation is more difficult to say in terms of the frequency of precipitation. I will say 10 years ago, it was kind of reported a lot that the desert Southwest would get even drier. That's no longer the case. The climate, Mark and I we're weather guys, we're not really climate experts, but when we listen to the climate experts, they used to be telling us that the desert Southwest is dry and would be getting even drier. They're no longer saying that. They're saying that because there's more energy and more warmth in the atmosphere, we're likely to get heavier rain events. It's the frequency that's uncertain. How many of those will we continue to get? So I'm going to turn over to Mark to kind of look at the seasonal outlook.
All right, thank you, John. And we'll just give a little quick overview of what we're expecting for this summer. And seasonal outlooks are of course, more generalized, and the level of predictability is not very high, and it's a little better than rolling dice and 8-ball, but it's not something where you can just plan a specific day and what's the weather going to be. But overall, we are looking at trends based on the past, mainly based on the past few months. So this is just a general outlook of the kind of like where the high pressure, we talk a lot about Four Corners high pressure, and that's usually when it gets very warm, and initially it's dry, but then as it gets warmer and the high pressure kind of moves around a bit, we eventually get like some of the moisture from the southwest monsoon that normally starts in July and continues into August. So what we're showing is just a climate model projection, very generalized look at the full weather pattern. It does hint at, as in previous Julys, July is a hot month here typically in western Nevada, and we're probably going to see that happen. It may not be right away. We are cooling down a little bit. We did cool down today compared to earlier in the week, and we are going to have just warm conditions near average between now and the 4th of July overall, and have some periods of wind, especially after today. It'll be less windy over the weekend, but then start to get windy again towards the 4th of July, which I'll add a little more info on that about. Of course, it's fireworks time, and winds and fireworks is not a good combination when it's not done in a controlled environment. And after July 4th is when we may be starting to see that change to a wetter and not actually a warmer pattern, which then eventually leads to some of those thunderstorm chances also increasing. So that's something we'll be watching for. Maybe seeing highs, reaching 100 degrees here in the city, and at least 90s for sure. And this is a general 3-month outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, and it's more of like a typical summer pattern. We see a lot. The above normal that's to our east is typically southwest monsoon moisture, and the below normal to our north is typical dry flow off for the Pacific Northwest, and we're kind of caught in the middle. We get periods of the moisture, but then it's interspersed with periods of dryness, and typically it's very warm is July and into August, and no different from the past several summers. And 1-month outlooks are pretty similar to this as well. And well, we wouldn't be complete. No presentation from us wouldn't be complete without a little freak out chart. So what this means to us, just taken from that previous chart, is our main hazards. Maybe less. The mosquito thing may be more of the due to winter snowpack. But what we're looking for is thunderstorm threats, which could affect the burn areas, which we've had a lot of in the last few years. So flash flooding is a threat. We've already seen it down at Topaz Lake, that area where they closed 395 about a month ago. So that's typical for July into August, and then by the time we get into September, the threat for those thunderstorms does tend to decrease. But our main concern that's going to probably keep us busiest overall this summer here at the Weather Service will be dealing with the threat for wildland fires, and we did call it a high level freak out or a high level of hazard because of all the grass, not just from last year that's still out there. It just doesn't disappear. It just kind of dries out and mats down, and then it comes back and contributes to what we call the fuel loading. And then that's why we're talking the grass and the brush mainly. The trees are not doing as badly up like around Tahoe, because having a decent snowpack the last 2 years has helped the tree health compared to the drought years. But then again, so this last year, and then the new grasses that grew during the wet spring. So put all that together, have it all dry out, it gets hot, and then we start getting to the thunderstorm patterns, and we haven't had many lightning starts so far. We've had fire starts not associated with lightning, but then lightning starts are more typical in July and August, and depending on how fast they spread too. And then we'll probably still see a risk of fire all the way into September as well, and then that does tend to decrease later in the month. And there's always some X factors, like will we get some fires in California that blow smoke over our area and affect the air quality? It may not be a fire nearby, but we seen them, if you've lived here any past 5 years, Rim Fire, I think was the big one, the American Fire, for example. California giving their smoke to us as a very special gift. So anyhow, quick look into winter. Most of you probably know about the El Nino, La Nina, and there is a trend that we are trending towards an El Nino, probably not a very strong one, but what that tends to favor is above average precipitation over the southern U.S. and Southern California, and it's not shown up here, but the Northwest sometimes gets drier in an El Nino pattern, and we're kind of caught in the middle, and that tends to happen with most of these, just taking one aspect like the El Nino, and it doesn't really help us with the winter because the storm track could lift northward enough and give us a few more of those atmospheric river type storms and bring another wet winter, but it's not really a guarantee because if it does hold farther south, we could end up missing some of those optimal storms, but it does tend to, again, bring warmer than average winters. So that's just a very quick outlook of what we expect for the next few months. And of course, you'll get plenty of updates from us as we go through the summer. And with that, I'll turn it back to John for a few more slides.
So before we wrap up and take any questions, I just wanted to take the chance to say thank you for our partnership with the air quality management team here in the county. Last winter when it was so dry, we continued to have wildfires all winter. So there were some local fires and smoke would get trapped in the valley. These are pictures actually from down in Mono and Inyo County, but we had issues up here as well. So every time we have an air quality issue, we're talking with the air quality management team here. We will share their posts on Facebook. They share our posts on Facebook and Twitter. So we just wanted to really say thank you for that partnership. We really appreciate it, as well as the other departments within the county that we partner with. And we issue air quality alerts from our office. We always coordinate those with the air quality management team here in the county. So our takeaways, and then we'll take any questions. And in terms of future climate, what we're fairly confident about is warmer with higher snow levels. That 2015 winter is what we might expect in the future in terms of warm winters. Precipitation, there's less certainty, but what we're hearing from the climate experts lately, there's a lot more evidence that while there may be fewer storms, the storms we get could be more intense or will be more intense. There's more energy in the atmosphere, which leads to more intense storms. So that, in the future could lead to increasing flood concerns. And then as Mark shared, our outlook for summer, warmer than average temperatures, and the key message is the wildfire threat being so high across western Nevada. We didn't say a lot about mosquitoes. I know mosquito control is an issue on the agenda today. We're not experts in terms of disease vectors, so we didn't put a lot on the slides, but I think the bottom line is warmer seasons and chances for more standing water certainly does not decrease the threat for mosquito vectors. So with that, we'll take any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have any questions at this side? Yes, Mr. Young.
I'm just fascinated by trying to predict long-term weather, and in reality, this winter they predicted a little bit warm winter and things too. Statistically, about how good are these estimates?
Yeah, and so I can kind of blame this on someone else because Mark and I at our office, we're concerned with the first 7 days of the forecast, which is when there's still skill. Of course, the first day is the most skillful, and then each day as you go off, the errors grow larger and there's less and less skill. So these seasonal outlooks, take El Nino for example, as Mark told us. For Southern California and for the Pacific Northwest, there's a bit of a signal. Even that is, as we saw over the last couple of winters, as you mentioned, it didn't pan out the way that was expected. So, you're exactly right. It's a complicated problem. Our co-workers in Washington, D.C., the Climate Prediction Center that do these seasonal outlooks, they're able to show skill above just saying that it's going to be average. But that when you see those charts, that's why they're just sort of saying, it looks slightly above average or it looks slightly below average. That's them recognizing the fact that there's not a lot of skill. And then I think the important thing is for us to realize here in Northern Nevada, as Mark said, when you look at those climate indicators, they might apply up north, they might apply up down south, but they don't apply to us.
Well, it's a fascinating science. I think we could do a lot more work with it, but that's what makes it fun, I think.
Yes, thank you, yeah. And I think the area that with the most hope is sort of that 1 month outlook. It's past what Mark and I are responsible for, but prior to those seasonal outlooks, which still don't have a lot of skill, there's a lot of research and development going on in sort of that 1 month period.
Any other questions down here? Well, I thank you for taking the time to be here, and Chief Brown is the one, a couple years ago, the National Weather Service always gives information to our fire service, right? Because then they can predict, well, you tell us, red flag day, et cetera. And I said to Chief Brown, I've been really holding off. I live in a 1947 built home. Should I get air conditioning? And he said, it's only gonna get hotter. So thanks to him, we have an air conditioner in our living room in the window and one in our bedroom in the window, not the ugly ones hanging out. You can't even tell they're there. Because our house is so old, we couldn't even get, with the basement, we couldn't get AC to work like it should. So I'm glad that you were right in your prognostication.
That's right. Good example, yep.
Yeah, so we can just expect wetter winters and hotter summers is the takeaway, I think.
Warmer winters, maybe wetter at times.
A warmer, maybe wetter.
Quick shots of, and then, yeah, those warm summers may not be like getting hotter on the high end, but a lot of those days, like 95 to 105 degree days, probably more likely to see more of them. Because once it gets above 105, it starts to kind of like natural limitations to how hot it can get.
Right.
It starts to cloud up, we get thunderstorms on
Right,
those days.
exactly.
When nothing would show otherwise, but it just happens, just so much heat when it gets above that 105.
Takes care of
degree.
itself.
So that's what we had last year, a lot of days between 95 and, but the hottest day, I think was 103 or 104. We didn't get that 108 like we had back in 2006.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Mitchelstadt and Mr. Deutschendorf, the meteorologist, Hans and Franz. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now we have item 8 is resolution of appreciation. Mr. District Health Officer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask Michelle Dennis and Stephen Brigman to come to the podium and join me there. I believe we might have lost Mr. Brigman during the fire alarm. So I have, we have 2 separate resolutions of appreciation, and I'm going to take the liberty of reading them together. So I read it once, so they're very similar. So we have a resolution of appreciation. Whereas the Washoe County Health District is charged with enacting and maintaining various sets of regulations pertaining to programs serving the citizens of the health district. Whereas the regulations governing sewage, wastewater, and sanitation is a complex document which requires great expertise in its interpretation, intent, and objectives of maintaining high standards of individual sewage disposal system construction in the health district. And whereas the Sewage, Wastewater, and Sanitation Hearing Board has been established to hear matters relative to complying with these high standards and is composed of responsible community members meeting the requirements to serve on the board, which have volunteered to provide their invaluable assistance in matters of appeals, variances, and recommendations to the District Board of Health. And whereas Michelle C. Dennis, P.E., and Stephen H. Brigman, P.E., have faithfully served on the hearing board and rendered unwavering assistance in support of the standards expressed for septic system construction in the health district. Therefore, the Washoe County District Board of Health wishes to convey, by the way of the resolution of appreciation, its thanks to Michelle C. Dennis, P.E., and Stephen H. Brigman, P.E., for their dedicated service as members of the Sewage, Wastewater, and Sanitation Hearing Board from October of 1999 to October of 2017, set forth this 28th day of June and signed by Kitty Jones, Chair of the Washoe County District Board of Health. So, and I just wanted to also provide you with my thanks and appreciation for almost 20 years of service on the board. So thank you very much.
It's been a privilege to serve on the board. Thank you.
And I think we need to have a
Let's
vote.
memorialize, or you want to take a photo too?
Yeah, I think a vote.
Let's
and
take a vote
photo.
first. So this is an action item. I would be entertaining a motion to accept this resolution of appreciation.
So moved. Second?
I have a motion by Brown and a second by Hess. Any public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Dennis, and thank you for being a pioneer as a woman in a largely masculine tradition. I bet you have some very interesting stories to tell.
There were some times.
I'm sure. We're going to take a picture with you.
Okay, all three, please. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Great, thank you.
Thanks for your work. Thank you. Thank you.
Makes you blow up. Poor baby. We still haven't perfected that, have we? All right, that takes us to item 9, and this is a public hearing, discussion, and possible adoption of proposed revisions to the District Board of Health regulations governing air quality management, and Ms. Albee will be presenting this.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Charlene Albee, Director of the Air Quality Management Division. The proposed regulations in front of you today are actually as the result of an issue that was identified in the strategic plan. We were in a position where it had been pointed out to us that some of our penalties were actually cheaper to pay than it was to actually do the right thing. The best example we have is that the rental of a water truck for the day is about $800. Our penalty for a dust violation was $250. So we've gone through, we have reviewed other agencies and the level of their penalties and came up to the amounts that are proposed in front of you today. We did complete the public hearings as required. We had the business impact statement adopted at the last meeting, and I can confirm that we have not received any additional public comment from the last meeting to the meeting today. So if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to address them.
Thank you. Do we have questions at this end? This end? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion to adopt.
Madam Chair, could you open the public?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Madam Counselor. Public hearing is open, and there is public comment. So let's take that first before we make any decisions, and that is Ms. Kathy Brandhorst. And this is item 9, Ms. Brandhorst, about our revisions to our regulations for air quality management.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I am the United States President. I just wanted to let you know that the air quality is always way down because the poles and wires in our city, they have to steal this water out of the rivers, and the rivers are going way down. Those water tanks across the street from me, they were all full. Now they're all empty. The wires are, used to drip into their faucets, their sewer lines, also the washer and dryers that they have maybe in their homes. And remember, they don't live there. That's why they have to steal this water out of the river. And as long as you allow this to happen every day, we're not going to have much water for ourselves either. We need water here. But of course, I read this letter. I accidentally opened it up and it said delinquent on water. Oh my. I also heard that the water company cannot turn on his water because he has over $1 million bill on the water. He cannot get water service at all, not even from the city, not even from the county. So where is he going to get the water from? The rivers, the oceans, wherever else he can find the water. He's going to steal it from somebody else too, even from their homes. They can steal their water out of the hot water heater, or even, out of their faucets, their sinks. Also the bathtubs, they can steal that water from them. And also they can steal the water from other places that we use water. And that's our water. That's our problem. We pay our bills. But the poor people don't live there, so how are they going to pay their bills? They cannot. It just grows and grows and grows. Even under evictions, they still refuse to move out. So what's going to happen? More poles and wires are going to be set up because they need gas and electric. They need more water. Yes, because how are they going to flush their toilets? How are they going to get the water?
Thank you very much, Ms. Brandhorst. Let's bring it back to the board. I am poised to take a motion since there is no questions.
We'll make a motion.
Okay.
We approve the regulations and section 020.040 and 020.042.
I have a motion by Brown, a second by Delgado. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item 10 is Regional Emergency Medical Services Authority. Mr. Heinz is here. J.W. Hodge could not make it today. His young daughter had heart surgery recently, so we are certainly sending her the best, most positive healing energy. He's my friend on Facebook. She's doing terrific. So that's how I know that. So Mr. Heinz.
So good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Adam Heinz, Director of Clinical Communications over at REMSA. As the chair said, Mr. Dow and Mr. Hodge are unavailable today, but they'll be back next month. You have received a copy of the May compliance report, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions if you should have.
Any questions from this end? This end? Okay, I do have public comment, item 10A, and that is Ms. Kathy Brandhorst, and this is the Regional Medical Services Authority, REMSA's operation report for the month of May of 2018. If you could keep your comments related to that, thank you.
Okay. Yes, my name is Kathy Brandhorst. I'm also the United States President. I'm very concerned about insurance. The insurance is being stolen. I have insurance because I have a job. Well, my insurance was stolen because my whole purse has been stolen. And that insurance covered to deliver babies. Now, my insurance has so many babies on it that they had to deliver because remember, if they don't have jobs, how else are they going to have insurance? They can't have insurance at all. They have to steal the insurance from somebody else. And of course, if I might have bullet holes, My insurance told me I had to pay that doctor $1 million. Well, that's not true. They steal the money off the insurance card. And of course, they're gonna get as much money as they can just to steal that insurance from me. And what's gonna happen, my insurance goes way high. It goes out of control that I can't even afford the insurance anymore. It's month to month. Yes, it is. And that's my business, and that's how much I have to pay per month. You know, other people don't have this, they do have this problem where they can't even afford to go to the hospital. Oh, this person doesn't have insurance. Whose card is that? Oh, it doesn't belong to them at all. But they're gonna have their services anyway, right? Yes, they will. Because they think, oh, well, maybe it is his wife's insurance. Maybe it is his child's insurance. But they don't look at it they do look at it that way. And guess what? Later on down the road, you're under arrest because that insurance does not belong to you. No, it does not. Why should my insurance cover babies being delivered inside my home? You know, they can cover it up as much as they can, but eventually they do get caught. They're in prison. Well, I have to laugh on that one because I do see them walking the streets. They're not in prison, they're not in jail, but they were told to stay in prison. They were told to stay in jail for 15 to 25 years. But they're not in there, are they? No. They're walking the streets, doing the same thing to somebody else, stealing his insurance.
Thank you, Ms. Brandhorst. Okay, I will entertain a motion on this. We've heard all of our public comment.
Motion to accept the report as provided.
Second.
Motion by Brown, second by Hess. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item 10B is an update on REMS's public relations during the month of May of 2018.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It'd be my pleasure to recap some of REMS's public relations, community relations, and key operational achievements over the month of May. And I'd like to first start off with a big thank you to the District Board of Health for your support and recognition for EMS Week that ended in May. The proclamation helps bring awareness to the great work that's being done in this community surrounding EMS. It also was great to see Commissioner Jung, Councilman Dare, Councilman Delgado, District Health Officer Dick at our EMS Award luncheon. You know, it means a lot to our staff and field providers when we have elected people, the body in which we report to, attend those events and show solidarity and support to that mission. So we're very thankful. In addition, I'd like to thank our fire partners and the chiefs for attending that event as well as co-authoring and editing the Reno Gazette-Journal article in celebration of EMS Week and recognizing the contributions of the first responders and pre-hospital providers in the community. You know, at the end of May, J.W. Hodge represented REMSA at a roundtable discussion hosted by Senator Cortez Masto talking about technology and healthcare, as well as upcoming legislation that she will be presenting. REMSA is working with the Washoe County Health District on When to Call 911 public awareness campaign. The RTC bus tails and interior ads, as well as Facebook portion of the campaign, were launched in March. Those Facebook metrics show that the campaign has been received nearly over 200,000 times, with 2,600 links clicked directly to the Washoe County Health District. And the video campaign has a click rate of about 2.23%. In addition, there's a 5-second television spot that's airing on KRNV that will run through July 2nd. Recently, Jasmine Orozco Rodriguez, a UNR journalism student, was participating in a week-long fellowship program with NPR's Next Generation radio program. She did a ride-along with us at midnight with one of our paramedics, Owen Shaw, and she spoke to him about the highlights and challenges of working EMS. The completed story is featured on our Facebook page, and it just was shared with the Reynolds Journalism School at the University of Nevada, really highlighting the work that is done while we sleep. Earlier this month, REMSA participated in the City of Reno's Health and Safety Expo. On June 21st, our booth featured our ambulance, our tactical EMS, paramedics, members of the special events bike team, and members of search and rescue. And we shared facts and information about CPR and bleeding control. Next, REMSA is proud to announce that we earned the 2018 Mission Lifeline EMS Gold recognition from the American Heart Association. This award recognizes pre-hospital healthcare providers and their collaboration with each other, with destination hospitals, and really is a testament to the quality of care that we're providing to those patients experiencing specific heart attacks in this region. That level of recognition acknowledges our system's ongoing commitment to providing guideline-based care here. And I was going to have him attend, but our clinical coordinator, Jason Hatfield, really is the one that's championed and gathered that data and pushed that through, and I would recognize him for that. And then finally, as we head into warmer weather and the 4th of July, we've been doing some proactive media outreach to share useful tips about avoiding heat, sun-related illnesses, packing first aid kits. In fact, yesterday I just did an interview with the local Univision station to kind of talk about and highlight these topics for them. And I am available to answer any questions on that report, Madam.
Really great report, Mr. Hines. Any questions? This is not an action item, so thank you very much for filling in.
Thank you.
Good to see you. And that barbecue was great, wouldn't you say, Councilman? And always heartfelt and touching, the stories and the people affected by regional emergency services, as well as law enforcement and fire services. So thank you for all that you do to keep us healthy and safe in this community. Next, we have a presentation. Item number 11 is a presentation, discussion, and possible approval of revisions to the Multi-Casualty Incident Plan, MCIP, and Ms. Dayton will be presenting.
Good afternoon. Brittany Dayton, Washoe County EMS Coordinator, for the record. On an annual basis, just as a friendly reminder, I review the Multi-Casualty Incident Plan or the Mutual Aid Evacuation Plan for possible revisions every year. This fiscal year, EMS and PHP staff worked with regional partners to implement several updates, one of the biggest being a new annex, which is the Alpha MCI plan, which I'll be talking about in a little bit more detail. Attached to the staff reports that I provided, the drafts of the MCIP and the Alpha plans are there for your review. In the next few slides, I'm going to do just a high-level overview of all the changes that happened over the last fiscal year. First is updating and reorganizing the MCIP, and then we implemented a pre-alert activation flowchart. We also established MCI levels. We changed the verbiage of an MCI declaration. We added a patient tracking section, and we also created a new section, which is patient considerations. In addition to those changes, we made some revisions to out-of-county MCI process and how Washoe County gets involved. We've lowered the level of mass gathering mitigations from 2,500 to 1,500 attendees for special events. We updated the MCI resource lists, and then the biggest revision being the MCI Alpha plan. There's a few revisions that I just listed out that I would like to highlight and go over with you in more detail. The first being the activation flowchart. I worked with Chief Reed and Chief McEvers from Sparks Fire on this, and I would like to highlight them even though they aren't here today. They helped me develop this flowchart for first responders to help them determine if an MCI should be declared or if just a pre-alert should be activated to help start moving people, but we're not necessarily sure if it meets the level of an MCI. And that would be, once we know more information, we can activate the plan. Next, we have MCI levels. In January of 2018, I organized a tabletop exercise for fire, law enforcement, and EMS. And the primary discussion was on-scene coordination of all the various agencies that show up during an MCI. The outcome was a desire to have MCI levels. This is much like what Vegas has, where we provide 3 levels to give responders a better idea of the size of the incident as they're getting initial information. Next, MCI declarations. This language was changed based off of 2 MCIs that happened in Washoe County in 2018. They were both car accidents, and the activation language was changed from 10 victims simultaneously involved to 10 or more patients anticipated to be transported. Next is patient tracking. And this section was really added for our regional partners to have a better understanding of how the health district gets involved and our role in an MCI of patient tracking. And then patient considerations. The plan now has a section that includes information about populations that might have unique needs during an MCI. So for the first go-around, we included pediatric patients, burn patients, and individuals with access and functional needs. And then the biggest change is our MCI Alpha plan. The development of this plan started in 2015 when the EMS program manager attended a presentation on the Paris terrorist attacks in November of 2015. The idea gained some momentum with the incident on October 1 in Vegas. And this plan is specifically for large-scale incidents and/or multi-location incidents, and it provides a framework to manage 100-plus patients. Because in our current MCIP, as it's written now, we don't have the capacity in our hospitals to handle that large of an incident. And so this plan has some special and unique components for response, and it includes possible police transports, strategically placed MCI medical supplies throughout the county, and then a coordinated healthcare response to open up more acute care beds and facilities. I'm recommending that you approve these revisions today with an effective date of the beginning of October, and this will just really allow for training of personnel on all of these changes and then the new annex that would be put in place in October. And then before I finish, I must thank all of the regional partners who have assisted the health district in these revisions. I certainly couldn't have done this without their help and their subject matter expertise in this. Several individuals were here earlier today, but unfortunately they had to leave. So I'd just like to highlight a few. Kent Choma was here from St. Mary's. And we have Chief Nolan sitting in the back from Reno Fire, and then Brian Taylor is right here, and he represents both REMSA and is the Interhospital Coordinating Council Chair. And then as you can see, all of the other agencies that had personnel that I would like to highlight, just because, again, I could not have done this without their support. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dayton. Any questions at this end over here, Doctor?
I just had one minor one. When I read through the multi-casualty incident plan, it mentioned some of the outlying neighbors, neighboring counties, but you didn't include Carson City. Was that, or at least I missed it if you did.
Where are you referring to? Out of county?
Well, if you have 1,000 people and you're going to have to call on more than what we've got here in Reno.
Are you talking about the mutual aid section?
I believe so. I should have folded it down so I could turn to it. But I would assume they're included with when you start talking about outlying places, aren't they?
Correct. Yeah, Carson City is included. They have a mutual aid agreement with REMSA for transport.
Okay.
In one of the recent MCIs that we had, Story County actually ended up being in our county, dropping off a patient, so they came and assisted during our May 4th incident. And so if there's a need to bring in more resources, they would use those mutual aid agreements to call in additional resources.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, we do have public comment before we decide to take action on this, and this is for item 11, which is revisions to our multi-casualty incident plan, and I have Ms. Kathy Brandhorst requesting to speak.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I am the United States President. I've seen people put bodies back together after there's nothing left of them. There was a lady that mentioned this on the bus. She had to put the body back together 5 to 6 inches tall. And that's all that was left of the body. Who does this? Why isn't it reported? I don't ever hear it reported at all after they put the body back together. There has been incidences too where they were burned to death, blackened to death, and they were set on fire. Their hands and their fingerprints are all over the body. What happened to that body? What does this person look like? You can't tell me because you're not the one that put the body back together. Somebody did. We don't know if it's an old man. We don't know if it's a young child. We don't know if it's a baby because they had to use the electric chainsaw to put the baby back together. And it's really about this tall. You don't know what the person's gonna look like, do you? No, you don't. You don't know how much pain it caused them to go through when they're set on fire. You don't know who put them back together, do you? Who does this? Is it a nurse? Is it a doctor? Is it also somebody else that walks in and says, oh, I can put the body back together. Now I know what the person looks like. I know what the person does. So I'll put it back together myself and then I'll find him later. I'll confront him because maybe that is the murderer. Is he the murderer? He could be, yes. He's the one that we are looking for. But you said, oh, he put them back together, so we got to let him go. He belongs in prison. He belongs in jail. Why would somebody just say, I'm going to put that person back together because he is innocent? Yes, we know he's innocent. You don't know the pain. You don't know what these people go through when they are victims. Lawsuits come up now against the person who did this.
Thank you, Ms. Brandhorst. We'll bring that back to the board. Since there was no questions for Ms. Dayton's excellent presentation, I would entertain a motion to approve of the revisions.
I'll move approval of the revisions to the plan.
I have a motion by Hess, a second by Delgado.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
Are you approving for them to go into effect October or today?
Oh.
Just want to clarify.
You want
that.
October 1st, right?
Please.
Let's amend that to include the start date of October 1st.
Seconder agrees? All right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Great job, Ms. Dayton. Item number 12 is presentation, discussion, and possible direction regarding request for augmentation of budget and plans for fiscal year 19 mosquito abatement activities. Mr. Weston.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Jung, members of the board. For the record, I'm Chad Westham, the Washoe County Health District Division Director over Environmental Health Services. So in your packet, you have an EHS staff report regarding augmenting the budget and plans for fiscal year 19 mosquito abatement activities. So I'll just provide a little overview. On February 22nd of this year, the Board of Health adopted the fiscal year 2018-19 budget that included an above the base request to increase the general fund transfer for from Washoe County by $192,750 for chemical and helicopter costs for increased mosquito abatement activities. The increase in the transfer was not included in the county manager's budget, which was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on May 22nd, 2018. So as we were discussing a bit with the Weather Service, Washoe County continues to have high water levels in many parts of the county since the flooding of last year, including areas of Stead, Spanish Springs, DeMonte Ranch, Washoe Valley. So the increased acreage to be treated does require additional amounts of Vectalex FG and Altocid P35 and additional helicopter hours. Without that, there could be an increased risk of West Nile virus and Zika virus for residents and visitors. With our current budget, okay, so I'm sorry, given the current budget for fiscal year 19 for product costs of $231,500 and contract services of $45,000, the program is suggesting that we request a general fund general fund contingency transfer of $160,000 and $20,000 for products and helicopter services respectively. This is above the $276,500 amount that was included in the budget that was adopted for fiscal year 19. It's our recommendation that the Board of Health request a Washoe County General Fund contingency transfer for the Health District budget for mosquito control in the amount of $180,000 for pesticide purchases and helicopter costs to apply larvicide to flooded areas and other water bodies in the region. So we appreciate your continued support for the program, and we're available for questions.
Great, and I'll start down here. Mr. Young or Dr. Hess, any questions? Anything you want to add, District Health Officer?
I believe Ms. Admiran wanted to provide some additional info.
Okay.
I did, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted the board to be aware that Section 4D of the interlocal agreement requires approval by the councils of Reno and Sparks prior to the county making any reduction, increase, or amendment to the district's budget.
Okay, so what does that mean? How much does Reno and Sparks give Washoe County for our Board of Health?
On a daily budget, this was a tax transfer
Right.
many years ago.
Right.
So I can't provide you with an amount.
Will you get us that? Because I'd like that to be on the public record. I just think it's ridiculous that staff has to spend going to two other bodies that have representation on this body. And honestly, they give us a pittance. But that's just the way it works in this county, I guess. So I would like to know too, what it is and could we ever change that? Because I don't like public health to be used as a political football. And I'm not saying either council would do it, but I don't like that there's a potential that that could happen. So, and we have been in I've been on this board for a long time, and we've been in lots of fights as this board with different agencies and cities and firefighter departments, and I mean, I could go on and on. So I would like some research done on that and how much they really provide, and maybe they should give us more, because the Washoe County General Fund is always giving, what, about 40% of our budget now is from our general fund.
It's slightly more than that.
Slightly
but
more. When I came in, it was 60.
47.
47%. Oh, where's Anna? Thanks. So, okay, but I know this is important, and if you want to ruin tourism, like, well, if you have Zika virus breakout, who would ever come here again? I mean, until we got a hold of that, not to mention the human misery that would come from having a child that was, affected by that during gestation. So, with no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Brown, second by Young. Any further discussion? Do you need any other direction?
No.
Okay.
Chairwoman Jung.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's no public comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item number 13 is the review and possible approval of the 2018 to 2020 Community Health Improvement Plan. Ms. Peters is here to walk us through that item.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Katrina Peters, Director of Programs and Projects, and I'm really excited to be here today to share with you the results of our roughly 5-month process to develop our second community health improvement plan. So first, I'd like to start by just kind of laying the basic foundations of the major steps in our process here. So the first is to assess the needs of the community. And we did that through our community health needs assessment. Heather Kerwin has been here before to share the results of that. She was the primary author of that work. We did that in collaboration with Renown. Renown and the health district provided half of the funding for that. The second step in the process is to really determine what priorities we want to focus on and engage the community in how to solve those higher priority health problems. And the third step is to make a plan for how the community is going to come together to work on those higher priority problems. And we call that plan our Community Health Improvement Plan, or our CHIP for short. So I'll be referring to it as our CHIP this afternoon. And this is our second annual one. So this represents our second journey through this entire process. And to just talk briefly about how the focus areas were chosen, the Community Health Needs Assessment included a prioritization that looked at both primary and secondary data and looked at a really wide swath of that data. And it really highlights a broad array of potential health focus areas, and I'll show kind of the top 12, and we'll talk about how we focused our efforts further from there. But I also wanted to say that one of the main lessons from the last CHIP is that we wanted to really be cognizant of not taking on too many objectives. There were about 63 in the last CHIP, and that made it really hard for us to focus our efforts. It was just a really substantial undertaking. And to determine those focus areas, the Truckee Meadows Healthy Communities Steering Committee met twice to discuss priorities. TMHC is a cross-sectoral coalition representing a variety of entities. And the first time we had a very robust conversation, and there was a need identified to look at some of the Robert Wood Johnson County Health rankings and what really gaps Washoe County had there. So Heather Kerwin and I spent an afternoon looking at that and pulling some of those into a revised prioritization. And when we looked at what that resulted in, here you can see the top 12 health topics. And really, we kind of focused on the top 7. So we shared information on the top 12 and sort of put a bar behind the top 7. And the reason for that is that when looking at both primary and secondary data, those top 7 remain pretty consistently in the top 7. But as you can see, that's still a really broad array of things to focus on. So we did some work to further focus those health needs areas. And given the needs of our community, that was a pretty tough process. So there was really a lot of needs that were identified that were pretty tightly ranked. But we really thought about 2 critical elements. The first, what the most pressing needs are, and then second, what the capacity and desire the community has to engage in certain focus areas. So if we identify a huge need and there's no capacity and no desire to work on it, it'd probably be a dud. So we kept that in mind. And the 3 focus areas that were chosen, the first was housing, and that, of course, is just a critical foundation for health improvement. There was a lot of conversations about the housing first model, so we included housing. The second is behavioral health, and that also includes a strong tie to housing, and was also a top priority cited by the community really again and again. The third was nutrition and physical activity, and we know that those 2 areas cut across many chronic diseases, and it also gave us an opportunity to focus on prevention. So a lot of the needs in our community on housing and behavioral health are kind of needs right now, but nutrition and physical activity allows us to do some efforts to kind of get ahead of some things. Once we picked those 3 focus areas, then the real hard work began on developing the actual plan and what sorts of objectives and strategies we were going to include in that. There was substantial community input on goals, objectives, and strategies, and we did that by gathering a committee for each of those focus areas. We really focused on items that had broad community support for stakeholders. So you'll see in the details of the plan, we've outlined an owner of each objective in addition to supporters. So that owner was someone who stepped up and said, I want to take a leadership role in this. And supporters are folks who wanted to engage in the work, but maybe were less comfortable taking a leadership role. And our goal was to be realistic and achievable, but still aspirational. And I think we were successful in doing that. To first talk about our housing action plans, and that was led by J.D. Klippenstein. He really did a fantastic job stepping up to the plate and leading that committee. We focused on 2 areas, housing and then homelessness. So the housing items really focus on that regional strategy for housing affordability. That's the strategy that the enterprise group is working on. They don't want us to call it a plan, so trying to emphasize strategy there. And also, there's some items in there that sort of specifically called out the need to identify a group to continue that support for implementation. So we know once the plan gets developed, there's going to need to be quite a bit of work to get that plan implemented. In the housing section, you'll see that there's items related to identifying support for alternative funding models for housing severely mentally ill. And there's a lot of other groups that have kind of taken up this charge as well. There are some changes that need to be made at the state level, but again, there's a lot of capacity for that. There's also some items around community case management for those receiving housing assistance. So when we kind of started having these conversations, there was a need identified to do some casework and link those caseworkers up with folks receiving rental assistance so they can be more successful once they're able to access that service. And you'll see we have owners from Washoe County Human Services, the Reno Area Alliance for Homelessness, Action, the Nevada Interagency Council on Homelessness, Community Health Alliance, and the Eddy House, so a pretty wide swath of support there. Next, to talk about behavioral health, you'll see 3 action plans in that focus area, and again, that first one really mirrors those housing objectives to support funding for the severely mentally ill. The second item really dovetails with the Regional Behavioral Health Board that our district health officer participates in, and that's to assess and address the current status and need for services around behavioral health. I mean, we have an intern that's working on that as well. And then a final one on reducing suicide and depression in adolescents. And we specifically wrote in some support for the Signs of Suicide program. The Washoe County School District supports that, and that's an education program for all 7th graders. So that's really kind of looking at a high impact, high feasibility there. Our final action plan is on nutrition and physical activity. So Community Health Alliance really stepped up to play a strong leadership role in this. And you'll see that those objectives are to increase physical activity and improve nutrition among adults and youth using that 5210 framework. And then also some objectives to expand that utilization of the 5210, some healthy vending, and also to support those family health festivals that we've had quite a bit of success with. And the owners there are Community Health Alliance, of course, has taken a really strong leadership role. Renown wanted to take a leadership role in some of the healthy vending, and then the Health District and the Family Health Festival Committee coming together to support those. So looking at our next steps, once the plan is approved, we're gonna go ahead and get started on implementation. And again, we've already identified owners and supporters to take a leadership role in trying to move those forward. The Health District will provide support for committees and getting meetings together, but we're really looking for those owners and supporters to keep that momentum going. And I'm sure you'll see me back here again to give you reports on our annual progress. With that, I'll take any questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Ms. Peters, are there any questions for this community health improvement plan at this end? Councilman Delgado?
Thank you, Ms. Peters, for that presentation. Last time we had here is Mr. Tony Sloan talk about the community benefit. Can you talk to me about where those line up in terms of their community health needs assessment and then our CHIP? And then I saw their name pop up once only on the 5210 piece of it. Are they also, as part of their community health, do they see different, are they seeing something different that we're not in terms of not aligning with every single one of our objectives on the plan?
They, I think, embarked on a plan or a process to produce their community benefits plan, and they've been invited to participate and opted to take a leadership role related to vending, largely around recreation facilities like the ACES Stadium and baseball parks.
Say that again? I'm sorry.
They opted to take a leadership role and support efforts to improve the nutritional quality of items that are offered in vending, largely in recreational facilities like the ACES Stadium and the baseball park.
I thought that's what you said. But, okay. And
Madam Chair, if I could
Hang on
maybe
just a
follow up.
second. The district health officer has something to add.
Yeah, I wanted to add, so we worked together with Renown on the community health needs assessment. And so we're both working from the same summation and compilation of data around public health and what the priorities are in our community. And for doing our community health needs assessment, we have a process that we need to fulfill in order to for it to be considered and qualify for what we need for accreditation under the National Accreditation Program. And so we had a process in developing the CHIP where we had to engage the community. And so that's the work groups that Ms. Peters was talking about, where we worked together with Truckee Meadows Healthy Community Steering Committee to identify the priorities to work on. And then we engaged the community through those work groups to talk about the actual strategies we wanted to use and outcomes to achieve, and who wanted to play what role in implementing that. The Renown Health has IRS requirements for doing a community benefits plan that doesn't require the same approach in the community engagement around developing the work plan for what the benefits are going to be. And so Renown Health decided to pursue a different approach from their end in developing their community benefits plan that was separate from what we had to use in developing the CHIP.
Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. A lot of hard work. Look forward to working with you on how we can move the dial on a lot of these different efforts. I know especially around the social determinants themselves, there's a whole swath of things that we need to look at and be a more stronger partner with. So appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I will entertain a motion of approval for the 2018 to 2020 plan. Oh, wait, hang on a second. I'm very sorry. I have public comment before we probably should take a vote. And that is for item 13, Ms. Kathy Brandhorst, and this is our Community Health Improvement Plan. While Kathy is making her way to the podium, I would like to ask Ms. Peters if she could reach out to the Business Improvement District, because I think this presentation would be something really good for them to hear and also give you some feedback. Not so much that they get to drive the car, but I think they are going to go, phew, that we're working on this in conjunction with the city initiative. Okay, thank you. Ms. Brandhorst, you have the floor. Community Health Improvement Plan.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, my name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I am the United States President. Yes, I just wanted to continue, with lawsuits. Lawsuits are pending against the murders, against the bank robbers, against people who actually do the actual crime in the city. Now, those lawsuits are growing. Like I already mentioned, I've seen this in the agenda, $7 million. That's a lawsuit.
Ms. Brandhorst, what does this have to do with the Community Health Improvement Plan?
Well, the health in itself can be with the lawsuits because people have been trying to put bodies back together on their own. And these are the murders that I was talking about, and also people who don't belong in the doctor's area or nurse's area, or they're not even qualified to do the job, is what I'm trying to say. And, this ruins a person's health. And like, you've been seeing this man put back together. And he is doing much, much better because he was chopped up with the electric chainsaw. Oh my, his body chunks were smaller than this. But now he's almost whole because we had doctors 24 hours watching him, putting him back together. And I just wanted to tell you, this is a lawsuit against this person who had to take the electric chainsaw and saw him up like that. Now, we had to take all that time, all the money, that to put him back together. Where did the money come from? Is it lawsuits? Are you stealing it from bank accounts? Are you stealing it from payroll checks? How are we paying for all this? Insurance, maybe? This is a big issue.
This has nothing to do.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brandhorst. We're going to have to wrap that up. Thank you, Dr. Hess, very much. And we will, Ms. Brandhorst, you are always welcome to speak under general public comment in anything that you would like to speak upon, as long as it's not offensive, because we do have a viewing public. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hess. Item 14, staff, oh wait, we didn't take a vote yet. I do need a motion to approve the 2018 to 2020 Community Health Improvement Plan, please.
Motion.
I have a motion by Brown, a second by Delgado. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Peters. Item 14 are staff reports and program updates. Always up first is item A, air quality management. Ms. Albee, do you have anything to add to your report?
Yes, Charlene Albee, Air Quality Management Division. I did have one update. The trends report that you adopted earlier today shows our trends, and our ozone obviously is our biggest concern. The front page of the staff report shows that we are just barely meeting the standards. There was an article put out today by Limebike, and I wanted to share the statistics. It just came out. In the first month, there have been, it's actually for 40 days, it's just been over a month, 21,000 riders, 36,000 trips. And based on those numbers, they're estimating that there were over 35,000 miles that were traveled on those bikes. And this is for Reno Sparks, Washoe County, the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, and the University of Nevada, Reno. So if you look at all of those miles traveled on those bikes, those are avoided emissions that we're now starting to see some reductions in programs. These are the kind of strategies that are going to be critical as we move forward with the development that we have going on. Also wanted to share, as we have our penalties collected, they all do go to the school district, and then the school district has a grant program that they run with their teachers that they can submit for request to buy equipment. And we did have Mrs., I think it's Conkey's class, got new microscopes. And so as part of that, she actually had these students write thank you notes, and those were sent to us by email. And we just wanted to share with you so you can see that we actually do have positive work going on in the classrooms with this money, and the school district is using it to the betterment. So that's all I had. If there's any questions.
Any questions? Great job, thank you. And that, Limebike, it's true. And one thing I don't think they put out enough, they also have scooters. So some people don't like to ride a bike, you can get a Lime scooter. And it was just announced today that we are the most successful community that they've ever done. And the other ones they've done are much larger cities than us. So I love it when people said, oh, people will never do this. Like, are you kidding? And we have the best biking downtown there is. There's not a bunch of hills or anything. So I'm really proud of Reno for participating in that. And all of us are partners as well, but they really took the, kind of took the hit too when we found a bike in the river, which things happen. And on the bridge, I mean, that's a little tomfoolery. That's not the end of the world here. It doesn't mean that it's a disaster and it's never going to work. I get a lot of complaints from people, I have to let you know, and I know I'm getting a little bit off, but it doesn't relate to air quality because they say this is just going to be garbage.
And
Mr. Councilman?
Madam Chair, yeah, if you don't mind, thank you. Yeah, I know our mayor took that on head on and really appreciate her vision on pushing that forward. But one of the things that I really appreciated also just from the Limebike's perspective is I'm seeing kids ride them to school. Which is really cool. And that wasn't, I don't think, part of the bigger conversation about what this means for just general opportunities for jumping on a bike, right? We see it as a tourism thing, but we see our locals take it in full and with full embrace. And when I'm driving through my neighborhoods, I see kids riding them to Worcester High School, riding them to Vaughn, riding them all over the place. And so it's pretty cool to see people have that opportunity.
I agree, and I want to piggyback on that. One night, my husband and I saw some kids carrying a Lime bike. And what I said was, they're not stealing it, they're putting it in front of their house so they can go to school the next morning. It's really smart, actually. So. All right, let's go to item 14B, Community and Clinical Health Services. Mr. Cutts, do you have anything to add to your report?
I have nothing further to add, but would be happy to answer the questions you may have.
Any questions? All right, thank you. And item 14C, Environmental Health Services. Mr. Westham, do you have anything to add to your report? Any questions for him? All right, thank you. Item 14D, Epidemiology and Public Health Preparedness. Dr. Todd.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Randall Todd for the record. I have just a couple of things that I wanted to point out in my report. The first one, under communicable diseases, extraordinary occurrence of illness. We're talking about yet another case of New Delhi metallobetalactamase carbapenem-resistant bacteria, Klebsiella pneumonia. You may recall that was the same organism that we talked about, it's been, I think, a couple of years ago now, but that got a lot of publicity. And this was not as resistant. That first case was what we call a pan-resistant case. It was resistant to every drug available to us. This one was not as pan-resistant as that. But the reason I'm pointing this one out is we just, this week, Dr. Lei Chen was interviewed about that first case by 60 Minutes. So we continue to get a lot of media interest in these pan-resistant cases of infection. And then the second thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is under public health preparedness. On the 21st, we had an exercise downtown dealing with radiological health. And it hadn't taken place when I wrote this, but it has taken place now, and we have just a very brief news blurb, except, yeah, I'm ready. That doesn't
When it
look
comes
like
to
it.
emergency response, the motto is hope for the best, expect the worst. That's why training is so important. Some of that training took place in downtown Reno this morning. Our own Terry Russell was there, and Terry, this training dealt with radiation exposure.
That's right. Good afternoon, Denise. It was the first time regional response teams have trained for this kind of emergency, one that originates in Sacramento. More than 100 people from health, emergency response, fire, police protection, the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, Orvis School of Nursing, and local government agencies worked together to see how they would respond to a mass of people exposed to radiation in Sacramento headed toward Reno.
You know what radiation is?
Bailey Harrison, her friend Mila Sanchez-Servine, and Mila's mom Melanie say they were in downtown Reno and decided to be part of the exercise.
That's okay, because we got people that are extremely wrong.
Each of them was screened to determine if they had been exposed to radiation. They were then sent through the paces of assessment, decontamination, and immediate medical needs. Well, exercises like this are not uncommon. This is the first time crews dealt with possible radiation contamination.
One of the things that would happen is that you would see a lot of the individuals and the people in the surrounding areas would want to escape that area. And then I'm just going to go ahead and escape.
Shipman says he knows there will be mistakes made during this exercise, but that is the point. There will be extensive analysis and overview of how teams reacted and what challenges they faced during the 4-hour-plus exercise.
And so if we can identify some of those and address them during an exercise, then they're less likely to be a problem during an actual event.
In the blue medical tent, Mila and Bailey tell me they weren't scared and thought everything that happened to them today was explained thoroughly. They said they were happy to help crews prepare for the worst-case scenario.
Welcome to our noon press conference.
Public information officers, too, had to work on their skills dealing with the media and hoping to quash any rumors and allay any fears the public would most likely experience in a grave situation like the exercise lays out. That included answering questions about the risks posed to our community from travelers out of state.
If someone shows up at your doorstep and they need help, the first thing you do is get them to our CRCs.
A CRC is a community reception area, which is what Reno would be in this scenario. That's because it's located 100 to 300 miles upwind from Sacramento and is not at risk from radioactive fallout. Terry Russell, Colaway News Now.
So anyway, we thought the exercise was a success. We learned quite a bit, and there are some things we need to make improvements on, but that's one of the reasons we do these exercises, so we can find out what those are. That's all I had to add, but I would be happy to entertain any questions.
Great. Any questions? How do you recruit volunteers? Do you do the same as the sheriff does with his CERT teams?
Well, it's somewhat similar. Our formal volunteer program is the Medical Reserve Corps.
Right.
And so we attempt to get healthcare providers, but it's not exclusively healthcare providers, it's people who might be interested in assisting there. So MRC is a much smaller program than the sheriff's CERT program is.
Sure.
But we get some of them by word of mouth, and they come in, we offer some training, and they do a good job for us.
You offer them training to be victims?
No, not.
How do you get the victims?
Well, in this exercise, the victims were largely volunteers that were recruited off the street.
Okay. The reason why I ask is I know that Sierra Nevada Job Corps Center always has students ready and willing and able if you need volunteers to be a victim. And, all you have to do is treat them nicely, buy them lunch, that sort of thing. And
Sure.
it's good for them to be out in the public and getting some professional experience, and also that they are part of our community. So that's where I was trying to drive.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any questions for Dr. Todd? Nope. Thank you very much, Dr. Todd.
Thank you.
All right, we are at item 14E, Office of the District Health Officer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. I reported that we had Dr. Mel Minarik come and provide a training for our staff. This is part of the workforce development plan that we're implementing. We were able to partner with Washoe County Human Resources to share some of the costs, provide an opportunity for our staff to be able to attend the event, and also have other county staff fill some of the remaining seats. And it was a great presentation she provided. It was on being a learning organization and people creating a positive framework for their experience at work. And she's going to be coming back and doing some follow-up with people that attended that session. Also wanted to touch on the Truckee Meadows Healthy Communities that we had Enterprise in town. They had concluded phase 1 of their work and are now beginning phase 2. They did present to the TMRPA Regional Governing Board, and I was able to attend that. It was actually really nice to see the presentation that was provided by TMRPA and their consultants on the development of the new regional plan. And then the enterprise presentation and the discussion and the alignment of those two different initiatives coming together, where the outcomes from a comprehensive regional affordable housing strategy will be able to feed right into that regional plan as it's being developed. For the Behavioral Health Policy Board, earlier Ms. Peters had mentioned that behavioral health and access to behavioral health services are one of the top priorities that came out of our community health needs assessment. It's a focus area that we're working on with the CHIP. Access to behavioral health services has been a large part of the discussion of our regional policy board, and we'll be looking to develop a recommendation for BDR as we move forward. But I also wanted to mention that tomorrow there's a workshop that the state is having on a proposal to change their Medicaid program to require prior authorization for neuropathy and psychotherapy services. And so we're concerned that this is just an additional barrier to people being able to receive behavioral health care that we need. And while I won't be able to attend that, Ms. Peters and I will be working on getting some comments regarding our concerns down to them later this afternoon. And then on the plan reviews, I just wanted to highlight, I'd mentioned the State Environmental Commission was meeting yesterday for possible approval of the revisions that a statewide work group had been working on some of those water project plan review regulations, NAC 445A. The State Environmental Commission did adopt those revisions, so those moved forward, and they should be becoming effective August 1st as they continue to move forward through that process. We are continuing to meet with NDEP and Tumwa to develop an interlocal agreement that provides for Tumwa to conduct plan review for water projects, with the health district providing an alternative oversight mechanism of some type of a periodic audit. And so we're well into that project and continuing to work to move that interlocal agreement forward. It's a effort where NDEP is working both with the health district and with Tumwa here, and with the Southern Nevada Health District and the Southern or Las Vegas Water Authority, so that they are interlocal agreements set up in both north and south for how this is approached and handled. And that concludes my report.
Great. Any questions from the board for the district health officer? Thank you very much. That takes us to item 15, board comment. I'll start to my left. Do you have any announcements or future agenda items? Nope. Okay. Great. And then that takes us to the final general public comment. Do we have public comment, madam? Okay. Does anybody here, would they like to do public comment that has not signed in? All right. With that, we are adjourned.